South Asian women's rights organization has been serving the Oak Ridge Taylor Macy communities and surrounding neighborhoods since 2007. Sawro is a grassroots organization led by women to address the unique needs of the community. Our mission is to empower community women and girls and alleviate the poverty experienced by the immigrant families through economic, civic, and social engagement. Sawro conducted a needs assessment survey targeted at collecting data and the lived experience of immigrant women working through precarious employment in the Oak Ridge Taylor Macy neighborhood. Women who participated in the survey collectively identified the barriers they face that systemically reinforce the labor market marginalization. While the 2017 labor law reforms made key changes, it still did not protect the dignity and the rights of the most precarious and marginalized workers. There's a gap between the experience of immigrant women in precarious work and policymakers, community stakeholders, and various labor and feminist organizations. Since 2016, community women leaders in Sawro have led focus group sessions and community consultation events with women employed in precarious work and formulated a set of policy recommendations that must be taken up by all levels of government to improve the experience of marginalized workers. The recommendations are suggested to improve the accessibility of immigrant women working through precarious employment to achieve safe, just, healthy, and attainable employment opportunities. Underemployment is a root-line cause of the frustration generally experienced by marginalized immigrant women. Skilled immigrants are scanned and recruited to qualify for immigration status in Canada. According to Sawro's clientele demographics, 83% of immigrant women have post-secondary education from back home. Yet when skilled immigrants land in Canada, their skills are not recognized and devalued by the employment system. They are forced to find work in the margins of the labor market where the jobs are precarious and their education skills are not being utilized in a competitive environment.
I completed Masters in Accounting from Bangladesh, and I have years of experience through a United Nations branch in Dhaka. Despite my credentials, I couldn't find a job in my related field in Canada for last 3 years. Unable to return to my field, I had taken on a job as a childcare contractor through a staffing agency, where my hours are irregular and I have no benefits. This is not what I came to Canada for. This is not the future I want for my child.
We recommend a public inquiry to identify the causes of mass underemployment, identify the inadequacies in policies and programs for remediation of underemployed women, and develop practical remediation policies and programs going forward.
The most common entry point into the Canadian labor market for immigrant women is manufacturing jobs through temporary help agencies. According to our survey demographics, 87% of survey participants were employed through one or more THA. 90% of the survey participants who've worked through THAs report that a second-class status is imposed on them with respect to wages and work conditions. Even in unionized workplaces, this treatment persists. Workers placed with THAs are assigned a second-tier status and are excluded from union protection.
Working through a staffing agency in a manufacturing sector is absolutely dehumanizing. Not only were we separate from the other workers and told to work harder for less, we were required to visibly indicate our position. I was given a blue hairnet to show my status in the workplace. No one cared to call me by my name. They called me agency worker. I feel developed and disposable.
We recommend licensing and bonding of temporary help agencies, THAs, restrictions on the percentage of workers in an enterprise who are THA assignment workers, and the length of time any position can be filled by a THA assignment worker. discontinuing the use of THA assignment workers in government services, carrying out forensic audits of THA practices to identify and prosecute violations by THAs of CRA regulations, and establishing publicly operated employment agencies.
94% of survey participants were not members of a union during the survey period, making them vulnerable to workplace violations. The combination of the lack of stable income and the lack of employment alternatives make marginalized workers furthermore vulnerable to workplace violations. Reporting these violations means reprisal that severely impact the woman. As are other community organizations, Sawro is regularly asked to intervene to support women whose employers have violated their rights and dignity, however are not given the intervener status to ensure workers' protection.
I have been working in a manufacturing sector through a staffing agency for last 3 years with minimum wage and no benefit. Every 3 months after employer forced me to sign new contracts, so my employment age with this agency is no longer than 3 months.
We recommend to enable a worker or a group of workers to select and be represented by an advocate of their choice, protect individual workers' anonymity, provide worker advocates full standing in procedures for investigating and remediating violations of workers' rights, and provide reasonable funding to support worker third-party representation.
The community's precariously employed women have expressed that the most difficult part of their work is the erratic scheduling. Survey participants have revealed that more than 80% of working women have been sent home from work by their employer with short notice. They say that employer scheduling practices not only creates the economic insecurity, but also makes it impossible for them to live like human beings. This opinion has been corroborated by numerous academic studies describing the profound impacts of these practices on the health and social well-being of workers, especially on the immigrant working woman.
My agency offers me childcare work at 1 hour distance from my house. The shifts start from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and continue to 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. without paid break. I am not permitted to spend the 2 hours break time in the center, so I have no proper way to spend my break. I cannot even refuse or deny my schedule because I need work.
We recommend amending minimum labor standards to include a range of premium payments for individual workers subjected to erratic, unstable work schedules, and imposing financial penalties on employers subjecting individuals and group of workers to erratic, unstable work scheduling.
Working women have felt excluded from the benefits of nominally universal labor market support programs such as employment insurance, the Canada Pension Plan, maternity benefit, injured workers' compensation, and low-income childcare subsidies due to the interference from THAs. This is reflected by the 40% of survey participants, as they have been denied their ROE by employers at least once and have also reported experiencing a wide range of predatory practices, both legal and illegal, used by THAs to create dependency. Since 2009, Sawro has advocated for full funding of low-income women child care subsidy, which is a significant need among the community women in order to overcome barriers to employment and ensuring sustainability in Canada. Access to affordable and quality childcare must be a right for all women and children.
My childcare subsidy will most likely be terminated because I was not able to acquire the mandatory hours for subsidy. I am doing the best I can by taking on multiple jobs, but my schedule at work is unstable. Even after requesting for longer and steady shifts, I have only been able to work as long as 25 hours per week.
We recommend for access to quality childcare and early learning programs, the main recommendations suggest immediate full funding of low-income childcare subsidies and a revised eligibility criteria and services which accommodate precariously employed parents working irregular hours.
I have requested my agency for work assignments several times, but they claim to lack work opportunities. Since I could not find work for a long time, I requested for my ROE to apply for EI. At my request for an ROE, my employer finally offered me a job that was so far away in Mississauga with an unreasonable shift. I was unable to take up the offer and they sent me a letter where they mentioned that I quit. I lost my opportunity to get an EI.
For access to employment insurance benefits, the main recommendations demand for a redefined labor force attachment considering the current precarious labor market. This includes a minimum flat rate for workers facing lack of work, illness, and maternity. For access to injured worker compensation benefits, the main recommendations suggest the use of third-party representation for injured workers in order to stop the suppression by WSIB investigators and THAs as they attempt to block benefits with pre-existing conditions. For access to CPP benefits, the main recommendations are to adopt arbitrary 50-50 employer-employee premium split to develop new premium splitting model which increases employer share for lower-paid employees and establish a minimum flat-rate CPP for low-wage workers with disabilities.
The long-term aim of the policy recommendations and labor market reforms is to elevate the platform for marginalized immigrant women working in low-wage precarious jobs, which will advance the rights for all.
Sawro tried to empowering the women by raising their capacity to address their issue in advocacy level. Since we start to work about this equitable access demand for employment, we find it out our women, those who are working in the precarious low-wage sector, face huge challenge. You heard all of this story that is really heartbreaking story that give us feelings that there is a virtual labor market and staffing agency imposing them. So we talked with 169 women and collecting their information, and then we analyze this information and we formulate some recommendation. That recommendation already valued and evaluated by the communities people, and our recommendation is categorized by three. One is like we really want to defend that underemployment issue that create all kind of marginalizations, and also the precarious work arrangement, and also the equitable access for social benefit. So our target is bringing this information and bringing this demand to the advocacy table policy discourse. So then the discussion will going to be totally influenced by this information, and the solution will going to be reflect this women's love. Without elevating this women's right and women's demand, it will quite impossible to bring the equitable gender equality in Canada. So we are working for these things, and we really requested that everyone has to be listen and read our recommendation and need assessment and helping us to promote these things.
In the next phase of the project, community women will build connections with other low-income and marginalized groups, labor and feminist academics, political organizations, and other advocacy groups in order to convince policymakers to work with affected women. The conversation will have the aim of increasing public discussion and understanding of the need to enforce the recommendations in order to maintain a decent standard of life. Women leaders have prepared communication materials in a variety of flexible formats. To read the need assessments or the recommendations, please visit our website and social media.